Quick one. Despite the public outrage, some have condemned it, but you have stated that the public outcry against the police siege is simply a storm in a teacup. Why would you say that?
Thank you very much. I said so simply because the police, by virtue of Section 4 of the Police Act, has a responsibility to detect crime, prevent crime, and arrest any perceived offender of any crime. And in so doing, they have enormous discretion in exercising that power. What they have simply done, ordinarily, is to see how to get Senator Dino arrested. We understand they got a court order to that effect. And they stormed his residence. By virtue of Section 12 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, they have the power to break into that premises and effect his arrest, provided that once they get in, they use reasonable force in getting him arrested to avoid any casualty.
Let me get this. A lot of Nigerians are actually concerned. Is it that the police do not actually have a warrant to break in and actually effect the arrest? Why is it that they had to lay a siege for 7 days now?
Now, we understand that sometime in July 2018, Dino was duly invited by the police to answer to some charges of criminal conspiracy and attempted homicide. He spawned that invitation. The police cannot just sit back and watch. The timing may be an issue ordinarily, but that is not relevant for the purpose of law. We understand they got a court order. They secured the warrant of arrest to arrest Dino, and they traced him to his residence presently. They have laid siege there. Siege, I would say surveillance. If they have the warrant of arrest to effect his arrest, and they discover that he's hiding in a place, they can conduct off that area and begin to monitor his movement. I'm only concerned about the freedom of the neighbors.
But can they legally forcefully gain access?
They can. That was what I said. By virtue of Section 12 of the Administration of Criminal Justice.
But why are they not doing that instead of laying siege?
What I suspect, this is personal, is that given the disposition of Dino Melaye to violence, they are afraid, perhaps, that if they should break in, we may just have a situation whereby casualties will be everywhere. If indeed Dino is in that house. And they have to be very careful too. It may likely be that Dino is not there, but they said Dino is there. If Dino is there, and maybe there are other persons there, and they break in, you can never tell what may happen. Perhaps that is the wisdom they have deployed in the circumstance.
What does the law state regarding evading arrest, especially when you are aware that the law enforcement agencies are demanding your attention in itself?
It's very clear. It's very clear. The police has the responsibility to go after you, provided due process of law is followed in securing your arrest. It's very clear, no sentiment about it. We are concerned that Dino is a politically exposed person. Just assume if you have a notorious kidnapper in that premises, or an armed robber in that same premises, do you think the public will be concerned about how the police is going about it? Assuming also you have a notorious terrorist in that same facility. Of course, the public will applaud the police in condoning of that area so that that particular notorious criminal can be arrested. Dino, as you will say, to some extent has been intimidating the police. And so we say the police are equally intimidating Dino. So it's a thing of 50-50. As a distinguished senator, one would have expected Dino to surrender himself to the police. The law is there to protect him.
Now, talking about the fact that he's a distinguished senator, Dino himself had contended that they needed to have gotten the consent of the Senate president to effect, his arrest. As a matter of fact, since he is still a serving member of the National Assembly.
That is outright border bash. I think they are talking about settlement. There is nothing like that in any law. As a matter of fact, I'm sure they are trying to reference the Legislative House's Power Privileges Act. Section 29 specifically of that section does not give such level of privilege to a serving senator. What it says is simple. Once a senator or any member of the House of National Assembly is arrested or detained or sentenced, as the case may be, the court should, as reasonably possible, give notice to the Senate President or the Speaker of the House of Representatives to that effect. The courtesy extended to Dino by a letter from the police inviting him to surrender himself is not ordinarily protected by law. It's just mere courtesy. So I do not understand where the Senate President got that legal advice from. I'm sure it was not advice, it's just on his own jump into that conclusion.
The Constitution, Nigerian Constitution, guarantees the fundamental rights of every citizen to personal liberty, and based on Section 36 of the Constitution, as well as Article 6 of the African Charter for People and Human Rights, Human and People's Rights. Now, are legislators entitled to any form of immunity on that Section 38 of the Constitution?
Yes and no. Yes, to the extent that by the provision of that Legislative House's Power and Privileges Act, any comment a lawmaker makes in the course of proceeding is protected in law. That is the privilege they enjoy, such that you may not be able to sue them for libel in the course of discharging their duty within the precincts of the National Assembly. Outside that, no other privilege. They do not have privilege from prosecution, arrest, as enjoyed by perhaps the president, the vice president, the governor, and his deputy. They can be arraigned. Lawmakers can be arraigned. They do not enjoy any privilege outside the privilege to speak freely while exercising their functions within the precincts of the National Assembly. That's the privilege they enjoy. But they tend to have expanded it on their own, trying to rub shoulder with the executive. There was a recent attempt made to amend the Constitution so that they could enjoy similar immunity. But that did not see the light of the day.
Now, some have said this action by the Nigerian police is ill-timed and is politically motivated, despite the fact that the elections are just around the corner, and it seems to be a pervasive intent by the ruling government, ruling APC party, to stifle opposition. What's your reaction to this?
That would be the natural reaction, because elections are just here. If, for example, one of the presidential aspirants decides to commit murder, maybe on tape, would you say because the person is a presidential candidate in this election, the police should stand at keyboard and watch? Definitely. The police will move on. The law remain the law. The police, yes, July, and they've decided to move against it. You wonder, since July, Dino turned down the invitation, and the police did not react. And suddenly, less than 6 months to election, the police, they are in full swing, trying to get him arrested. But as lawyers, what we are concerned about was he suspected to have committed a crime? The police said yes. It may well be that Dino will not be found guilty of this offense. But they said he was involved. Was he the one that pulled the trigger? Did he actually give any instruction to any of his boys to shoot? If he did, was he caught on camera? How would the police prove that particular ingredient of the offense? Be that as it may, Dino even played into the hands of the police by spawning that invitation. And we must be very careful here. Oftentimes, you discover that Dino, as it is now, may even make a political mileage out of this. It will be to his benefit. Those is distracted politically may, if indeed they do exist, of course we know they exist, but whether they are the one engineering this arrest or not, is not for us to second guess, because the police has a statutory responsibility under Section 4 of the
Administration of Criminal
No. Section 4 of the Police Act.
Okay.
To prevent crime. And where crime is already committed, to effect arrest and, of course, prosecute.
So finally, where do you think this standoff will eventually end?
Well, the law remains the law. On my part, I will advise the police to beat a tactical retreat, because we all know that Dino is a drama king. It's going to be very difficult to beat him in this drama. And if you eventually beat him, he would have curried the sympathy of members of his constituents and will be re-elected to the Senate. So we have to be very careful how we go about this. Yes, the world is washing. Yes, we know this is the law. That's exactly why we say we should separate law from sentiment. Dino can be arrested. He can be arrested, no doubt about that. And the way the police has gone about it may be morally wrong. But I'm of the opinion that it's not legally incorrect, so long as they are making attempt to break in, because they can't just break in like that. It's not as if they cannot break in per se, but breaking in, the character in there may be violent, and they want to wash. If they leave, Dino will leave the premises. But I suggest that they can arrest him even without having to show up the way they have done so far. But legally speaking, I think they're on a fair material.
Now, away from Dino's case, the Inspector General of Police has reached the mandatory age of retirement. And the public are of the opinion that at this point in time, the IG should step aside. What's the legality of the president extending the tenure of the IG?
Insofar there is no law forbidding the president from extending the tenure of the office of a public servant like the IG. Of course, the president can so extend. For members of the public who may not be comfortable with that, the best thing to do is to test the law and challenge the president in that regard. It's as simple as that. By nature, humans, particularly politicians, who want to take some decisions that members of the public would think is tilted towards protecting the party in power or otherwise. As an opposition party, what is expected of members of the public, like the civil society organization, you challenge the position of the president, and the court is there to interpret, indeed, whether that power does exist or not.
Mr. Stanley, thank you very much for your insightful analysis.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me once more.